Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm talking about how you can apply pressure to the grip in order to strike your irons as pure as a golf pro. Although I think all instructors are talking about the same stuff, but all trying to explain it in a different way, a lot of times it seems that the real kind of important information never really kind of finds its way home to those trying to learn it. And one of the things that I think you all have heard, and some of you have asked me to explain a little better, is how you get pressure on a golf club. What we're talking about when you're getting pressure and you're squeezing that ball out. Well, if you think about it quite logically, pressure means to press. So with which hand are you going to be pressing against the golf club as you come through the ball? And it's pretty obvious. It's going to be your trail hand, which is pressing. Your lead hand is going to be more kind of pulling the club around the arc towards the target, whereas your trail hand is pressing. Now, one of the big things about this pressure that you're applying to the club in the downswing and through the golf ball is that it can't be applied too early, because you're basically applying the pressure by releasing the elbow and the wrist angle through the ball. And if you release the elbow and wrist angle towards the ball, then obviously you get what everybody knows as the early release. So what is maybe the key? Is there a key? Is there one thing that you ought to be thinking about? Well, in truth, yes, there is. There is one key movement which will basically set the boundaries of the pressure that you can apply to the golf club and set the boundaries of how pure a strike you can actually create when you hit the golf ball. Because when we're talking about a pure strike on the golf ball, it means not only hitting it out of the middle of the club, but also hitting it so that you are actually compressing the ball. Especially with irons, if I come a little bit closer to the camera, you can see here that if the iron is coming straight from the side, you're more likely to hit the bottom of the face. If, however, you come with the club leaning, you're more likely to hit the middle of the face, or at least kind of above the third groove on the face. So puring your irons is not just a question of whether you're hitting the toe, the heel, or the center of the face, but whereabouts on the face are you hitting it? And the only way you're going to get up the face is by getting lean on the golf club. And the only way you're going to get lean on the golf club is by getting pressure on the handle. And so we come back to, what is it then, Jonathan? Spit it out. Well, we've talked about it before and we'll talk about it again. If you want to hit the golf ball to the target, you are going to have to turn to the target first. In fact, there's a good idea when you're teaching a beginner, just so that it doesn't get the wrong idea of what exactly this game's all about, is just get them to stand pointing to the target and chip the ball forward, because that way they know the idea is to move the ball with the club to the target. And when they do that, their hands can't go along the target line, they swing around the body and the ball is moved out towards the target despite that. The only reason we're standing like this to the ball is in order to get a little bit of run up. What that means then is, in order to apply the pressure that I want to, I have to turn to the target before I release my arms and hands through the ball. Yes, I hear you say, we know that. What is the key? The key is the trail shoulder position at what we could call the release position. If you were to make a rotation with your hands across your chest, keeping your knees bent, it will block a little bit how far that you can actually rotate your hips and your chest, especially when you're getting your trail shoulder down on plane. And if you were to drop your hands down at that position, you'll see how bent your trail elbow would have to be to get the club back parallel to the target line and parallel to the ground. And it's at this position that you're going to start straightening your trail arm and putting pressure on the golf club. The further away that your trail shoulder is from the ball, the less pressure you can apply to the club for a shorter period of time on the other side of the golf ball, so to speak. The further that you have rotated, keeping your center axis, the longer that you are going to be able to keep pressure, because the further you can reach forward with your arm. It's that simple. And this is fortunately the good thing about golf. If you actually get it explained to you correctly, then you think, well, of course, it has to be like that. If you want your hands ahead of the ball, then it's going to be determined on how far you can reach with your right or your trail arm. If your trail shoulder has done this, you're not getting past the ball. If your body has tilted backwards, you're not getting past the ball. If, however, you've stayed over the ball, you've rotated your shoulders forward, you are getting past the ball. And that's how you keep pressure on the handle. At the same time as you're pressing through and your trail shoulder is coming forward, your lead shoulder is going up. And that's what we were talking about last time when we were talking about not hitting the ball fat. Because your lead shoulder's moving up, it's pulling the club up and around the same time as the trail arm is pushing forward. And these combination of movements is actually the thing that's releasing the club through the ball and giving you that extra speed through the so-called catapult effect. What you do have to be careful of, however, is staying in plane with your shoulders. If you look at it from the down the line camera, you will see that the rotation of my shoulders goes steeper than the ball's position. So I'm actually rotating to a point between my feet and the ball. And that is actually helping me to get that arm down and on plane. So it will look from the down the line camera as if my lower arm for my trail arm is in the exact line of the golf club as I come through the golf ball. And that means I'm able to put pressure on the entire shaft because I've got my arm directly behind it. I'm not on top of it and I'm not underneath it. But in order to do that and to get through the ball, I've got to get my trail shoulder as deep as possible. But it's because it's a combination of kind of a side bend and a rotation, and you've got to side bend and rotate at the same time. This is what makes it so difficult. And what you tend to see is either people who get the rotation going but no side bend, or they get the side bend going but no rotation. And as ever, if it was easy, then I'd be out of a job. So all that's really we can do is explain it to you so that you stop practicing it incorrectly, and then help you with maybe drills to actually get a feeling for what it should feel like when you're doing it. And then quite honestly, it's a question of work and doing the repetitions. So probably the simplest exercise you can do to start off with is just getting the shoulders down in plane. Try this basic exercise that everybody is showing you now on YouTube, and then try and get the feeling that it's the shoulder that brings the arm down rather than the arms bringing themselves down. Even this kind of pulling thing isn't going to help because it's leaving the trail shoulder up behind you. You're not going to get to the ball. You've got to bring the arms down with the trail shoulder, getting the trail shoulder distance relative to the golf ball as small as possible in order to get this pressure through the ball. And for the guys who are really doing it well, you'll actually see that they move the ball kind of up in their stance so that they can actually get pressure in the ball and they're not hitting too much in the downswing. So if you were looking at the kind of classic idea of putting a 7-iron out of the center of your stance, and then you actually get that amount of pressure on the ball, then you're de-lofting the golf club so much, it'd be like hitting a 3-iron. I hope that was okay, and I hope you understood it. once you've actually got that kind of feeling of pressing the golf ball through, pulling around here with the lead arm at the same time, then you shouldn't have any problem getting that kind of pressure on the golf ball. You will get a far more kind of powerful impact feeling, as if you really are kind of squashing the ball out, squeezing it off the turf. And your divot, if you're taking one, is going to be after the ball. Although you can see there's quite a shallow divot for me, because I'm really working on getting this lead shoulder up and around at the same time. So as I said last week, if you tend to hit it fat, it's because you're pressing out with your trail arm, but you're not clearing with your lead shoulder. Get that out of the way and you'll pull the club out and flatten out the angle of attack, and you won't be hitting great big divots anymore. It's all about getting the hands ahead of the ball. You can only get the hands ahead of the ball if you get the shoulder forward. You can only keep the shoulder on plane if you get the shoulder down. So it's getting it down and getting it forward at the same time, which is the key to getting pressure on the golf ball and striking the golf ball like a tour pro. Get out on the driving range and try it out. I hope it's a bit warmer where you are than it is here. I'm freezing my bits off, but I don't mind doing it for you. As ever, thanks very much to all of my Patreons for supporting me. If you would like to support the channel, I shall leave a link down below. You can also support the channel just by hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. Use the little bell for notifications if you'd like to get notifications the next time that I release a video. Otherwise, as ever, stay well at these difficult times, and we'll see you all very soon.